About a month ago, I heard the famous YouTube evangelist, Mr. Ravi Zacharias, talking about the book of Daniel, which was written in the 6th century BCE, and it predicts with astonishing detail and accuracy the rise and fall of Alexander the Great 2 centuries later. Here's Mr. Zacharias.
When you take the book of Daniel, written late 500s, and put it pro forma onto Alexander the Great in the 300s before Christ, you see the stridency of Alexander suddenly cut off in his 20s. 4 kingdoms emerged, given to his 4 generals. Those 4 come into the Ptolemaic and the Seleucid empires. That emerged then into the Roman Empire. Centuries before, to be so specific in prophecy. Centuries before, to be so specific in prophecy.
Now that is powerful stuff. That's like George Washington predicting 9/11 down to the exact number of hijackers. And I agree with Mr. Zacharias that if this is fulfilled prophecy, then
immediately you see the supernatural. Immediately you see the supernatural.
So this was really ruffling my worldview, which I always think is a great thing, and I decided to do some homework on it. I went to the Jewish Encyclopedia, and here's what they said.
The book of Daniel was written during the persecutions of Israel by the Syrian king Antiochus Epiphanes.
Now, I don't really know how you pronounce Antiochus Epiphanes, but I know how to cut and paste. Copy and paste, I guess, and use Wikipedia. So I did just that, and I found out that he's a 2nd century dude. Now, if he's 2nd century, and Daniel was written 2nd century, that's 2 centuries after Alexander the Great. That's 2 centuries after Alexander the Great. So Mr. Zacharias maybe doesn't have his facts quite right. But I wanted to look further, so I went to the Catholic Encyclopedia and Oxford Biblical Studies online, and you know what? They both say that contemporary scholarship believes that the book of Daniel was written in the 2nd century BCE. So at this point I was thinking, Ravi Zacharias has been a very naughty boy. He's misleading us. But what do I know about dating ancient documents? Nothing. I play banjo and know how to copy and paste. So I contacted John Collins, one of the top Old Testament scholars in the United States. He's at Yale University, did his PhD at Harvard. He's an expert in Daniel, the book of Daniel. And I said, what is the scholarly consensus, if there is one, on the dating of the book of Daniel? And here's what he said to me.
All mainline critics agree that Daniel was written between 167 and 164 BCE.
So it looks like Ravi Zacharias really has been misleading us. Not so much about the date of the book of Daniel, but by getting up there in front of that audience, in front of those microphones, and acting like the 6th century date is settled fact, giving us absolutely no hint that the central premise of his argument is hotly contested. He was so assuring about that date that he said it twice.
The book of Daniel is written in the late 500s before Christ. When you take the book of Daniel, written late 500s...
Now, what bothered me wasn't just the misleading stuff, but there seemed to be a bully aspect to it. Would Ravi Zacharias have made that argument in front of a hall full of Old Testament experts? He wouldn't have been able to get away with it. But he can get away with it in front of a bunch of college kids at University of Illinois, many of whom have probably never read the book of Daniel.
The third criterion is that the book should not have a failed prophecy. Deuteronomy 18:22 says that if a prophet speaks something and it doesn't happen, don't listen to him. In short, that is a false prophet. Now, it turns out that there are passages in both the Old Testament and the New that predict something and then it doesn't happen. For example, Paul, writing in 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, verse 17, speaks of Jesus coming back in Paul's own lifetime, so that he is included among the we who would be taken up into heaven when Jesus returns. And of course, this did not happen. It is a failed prophecy, and on this criterion, the Bible fails.